Hi guys, welcome back to this quiet space we've made. Today, we're going to step away from the noise and the bright lights of our modern world. We're going to journey back, way back, not to battles, not to kings and queens, and not to great discoveries. We're going to a simple time. A much harder time, yes, but a simpler one. A time defined not by speed, but by endurance. Today, we are going to explore why it was, in many ways, very difficult to be a medieval blacksmith. Think of it as a low hum in the background of history. The blacksmith, a figure often romanticized, always necessary, but rarely truly understood. We might imagine a burly man, sure, but do we truly sense the weight he carried? The daily grind, the silent, constant toil. That's what we're going to find together. Just relax. Let your breath become steady, easy. Feel yourself grounding, just as we are grounding ourselves in the dirt and the smoke of this long-gone time. We will move slowly. There is no rush here. The past waits for us now. Imagine standing here, in a medieval town, not a grand city, you understand. Not like the ones you might have seen depicted in dramatic stories. No, this is a cluster of timber and wattle. Low, single-story structures with thatched roofs, huddling together against the elements and the wild world that lay just beyond the edge of cultivated land. This is the 12th century, maybe the 13th, the very peak of the Middle Ages. The town itself feels almost alive, but a slow, sleepy kind of alive. It smells, quite frankly, like wood smoke and damp earth, and perhaps some livestock, as pigs and chickens roam freely. The streets are not paved. They are simply packed earth, turning to deep mud when the rains come. In dry weather, a fine dust coats everything, including you. It's early morning. Just a trace of deep pre-dawn blue is beginning to touch the horizon. Everything else is still held in the velvety grasp of the dark. The cold is a living presence, settling into your bones. But we have our woolen cloaks wrapped tight around us. There's a silence here, a very deep silence. The modern world is characterized by constant sound, but here the silence is a blanket. The birds have not yet begun their full morning song. The river, if one is nearby, just has a soft, quiet rush. But even in this stillness, this town is not truly asleep. It is perhaps just holding its breath. For any community to survive, it must have a heartbeat. And in this time, that heartbeat, that foundational beat, was not the church bell or the Lord's command. It was the blacksmith. Every single aspect of life was, directly or indirectly, tied to his anvil. The farmer planting his field with a simple iron-tipped plough. The blacksmith made that tip. The cook preparing a stew in a black cast-iron pot hanging from an iron chain. All from the forge. The carpenter framing a house, needing nails and hinges. Yes, the local knight, or even the town watch, with their chainmail and swords. Of course, even the simplest door needed a simple latch, a single iron hook. The wheels on a few carts needed iron rims. Every horseshoe for every horse. All of it came from one place. This one workshop, this wasn't a luxury. This was survival. If the blacksmith fell ill, if his forge went cold, a town would slowly grind to a halt. His role was as fundamental as the baker's or the weaver's. In fact, you could argue it was even more so. For the baker needed tools. The weaver needed a loom. And who made those tools? The blacksmith. He was the tool maker for the world. His hands held the key to progress, and yet he was tied to this place. He could never just leave. His duty was to the forge, and the forge's duty was to the town. You can feel that weight, even now, in the silence. It is a slow, enduring pressure. Let's walk closer. Our boots make quiet, muffled thumps on the packed dirt path. We are heading to the source of that first, tiny sound we heard. The single, low pulse that precedes the town's waking. The blacksmith's forge. It's often located on the edge of the town, near one of the gates, to protect the rest of the vulnerable wooden structures from its greatest danger, fire. As we approach, you see it. It's a low-slung, sturdy building, often built partly of stone or brick if the town could afford it, with a heavily timbered roof. Its small, dark windows are unglazed. A great, gaping archway forms the main entrance, completely open to the air, to pull in the oxygen needed by the fire and, more importantly, to allow the vast amount of smoke to escape. You can almost smell it now. A complex scent. The sharp acridity of burning coal or charcoal, a heavy, dusty odor like hot iron. And beneath it all, the rich, slightly sweet scent of the old, dry timber framing. The air inside is thick. It's warmer than the street outside, yes, but it is not comfortable. In summer, it is an oppressive, humid oven. In winter, as we stand here, the contrast is stark. The side of you facing the fire is uncomfortably hot, almost stinging, while your back remains gripped by the morning's deep frost. This is a world of extremes. We step into the main room. Our eyes slowly adjust. The only illumination is a single, smouldering hearth tucked deep into the back wall, and perhaps a small oil lamp or a rushlight. It is not bright. Everything is bathed in shadows and a soft orange-red glow that ebbs and flows, like a giant, pulsing heart. A thin, constant curl of smoke, sometimes thick and grey, other times fine and transparent, rises from the hearth and hangs near the ceiling. It is always present. A blacksmith lived their life inside this cloud of smoke. We take a slow, quiet breath. You can almost taste the smoke in the back of your throat around us. The world of the smithy is laid out. It is not an organized place in the modern sense. It is a workplace built for function, not form. The walls are covered in soot, dark as twilight, giving the whole space a perpetually dim feeling. Shelves and hooks line the walls, and on them hang tools, so many tools. Tools that have been here for generations, passed down, added to, each one telling a story of use and repair. Look here. See the tongs. Not just one pair, but dozens. Different sizes, different shapes. Some long-handled, some short. Their ends shaped like flat jaws, or pointed hooks, or rounded cups. Each custom-made to grip a specific size of hot iron rod, or a small, fiery piece of metal. You can see the wear on them, the metal polished bright only in the exact spots where a strong hand gripped them. And here, the hammers. They are heavy, solid, each one designed for a specific task, from the huge two-handed sledgehammer used by the apprentice for heavy shaping to the smaller, precise ball-peen and cross-peen hammers the master uses for detailed work and finishing. Their wooden handles are smooth from years of use, dark and slick with the sweat of generations. Look further. The chisels, the fullers for creating grooves in the metal, the drifts for punching holes, the swages for shaping different profiles, and of course, in the very center, the sacred object of the smithy, the anvil. It stands like a dark monument, set firmly on a huge, ancient oak stump. It's a massive block of forged iron. Its surface is dimpled and smooth, shining faintly in the firelight. It has been struck millions upon millions of times, yet it endures. A thing of quiet power. Nearby, a stone trough filled with water for quenching and hardening the steel. Its surface is dark and still, mirroring the fire. The entire place feels slow, timeless. And yet, there's an underlying pulse of activity, a daily, ancient rhythm about to begin. Let's watch as a typical early morning in the life of a blacksmith begins to unfold. It is perhaps 4 a.m., or maybe even earlier, before the first rooster calls, before the baker starts his fires. In this dim, cold blue light, the blacksmith is already here. His name doesn't matter. In his own town, he is known simply as the smith, or perhaps he is the second, or even the third generation of smiths, holding the knowledge of his ancestors in his very bones. His first task is a slow, careful ritual, a ritual that has been the same for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. It is a dialogue with fire. He moves to the heart of the workshop, the brick hearth. To the modern eye, it's not much. A raised stone and brick platform with a deep pit in the middle. But in this dark world, it is everything. This is where the magic, or rather, the very hard, unglamorous work, happens. It is still filled with the grey ash and a few stubborn, smouldering embers from the previous night. He picks up a metal poker, its tip glowing faintly with a residual, gentle orange light. Slowly, deliberately, he begins to poke and rake. Each movement is careful, ensuring no tiny bit of precious charcoal or coal is wasted. The faint, shushing sound of the metal on ash is the only sound in the silent room. A soft, gentle whisper in the dark. He pulls the new coals, dark and cold, into the center. Then, a few larger pieces of charcoal, maybe some small, dry sticks. Now comes the vital part, the breath of the fire. He steps around the back of the hearth. There, a large, clunky contraption is fixed to a beam, the bellows. It is massive, a powerful mechanism of leather and wood, its twin chambers as large as a man. It is a lung, a giant, artificial lung, built to do one thing, push air into the heart of the hearth. He grips a large wooden lever. And now, the second sound of the morning begins. A deep, low whoosh. A sigh. The bellows expand and contract, their ancient leather creaking and moaning with a slow, heavy rhythm. Creak, whoosh, creak, whoosh. We can feel the change. At the hearth, a tiny spot of light, a single orange eye, appears in the center of the dark coals. It grows. The smith, imperfect, steady rhythm, pushes and pulls the lever. Creak, whoosh. He doesn't rush. This isn't about speed. This is about patience. This is about endurance. This is about nurturing the fire from a tiny spark into a living entity, slowly. The small, glowing heart in the hearth expands. It blooms like a dark orange flower in the night. The smoke begins to rise, thicker now, its scent filling the space. The soft, red light begins to paint the walls, the tools, and the smith's face with new definition. We see him now. Sweat has already formed on his brow from the repetitive labor. His muscles, corded and powerful, move in their ancient rhythmic dance with the bellows. Creak, whoosh, creak, whoosh, dot. The whole process is a lesson in patience, In a world without buttons to press or dials to turn, this is how you make heat. This is how you change the world. Slowly, deliberately, with a deep, slow rhythm that seems to echo the very turning of the seasons. Imagine standing there. The only sound is that deep, low, heavy rhythm of the bellows. The air is growing warmer, the shadows are receding, the red glow is strengthening. We feel our own breaths synchronizing with that slow, powerful whoosh. The past is not a story told in books. The past is a feeling, a rhythm, a smell, a sense of slow, enduring life. And this, right here, is just the beginning. The fire is built. The tools are ready. The anvil is waiting. But his work is not merely to build a fire. His work is to confront the heat, to shape the world, and we, in our quiet exploration, will join him. The fire is breathing now, a low, rhythmic sigh of orange light pulsing against the soot-stained stone. If you are still awake, just let your mind settle into the corner of this dim workshop. There is no hurry here. The sun has not yet crested the hills outside the village walls, and the world is still held in that deep, blue silence of the early morning. But here, inside the forge, the day has already begun its heavy, slow-motion crawl. Imagine standing here, near the wooden bellows. You can feel the temperature shifting. It isn't the comfortable warmth of a hearth in a manor house. It is a sharp, aggressive heat that bites at the skin of your face, while the draft from the open door sends a shiver down your spine. This is the blacksmith's constant companion, the unevenness of the world. One side of his body is always baking, the other always cooling. The smith reaches for the long wooden handle of the bellows once more. This is the first labor of the day, and it is a deceptive one. To a passerby, it might look simpler, rhythmic tug-but for the man standing here. It is the beginning of 1,000 repetitions. Listen to the sound. Creak, huff, creak, huff. The bellows are made of thick oxide, treated with fats to keep the leather supple, but the dampness of the morning makes them stubborn. They groan like a living creature. As the smith pulls the lever down, the great leather lungs expand, drawing in the cold, stagnant air of the shop. When he releases or pushes, that air is forced through a long iron pipe that twists directly into the heart of the charcoal. You can almost see the microscopic dance of the sparks. The charcoal, which was dull and grey moments ago, begins to glow with a terrifying intensity. It shifts from a dark cherry red to a bright shimmering orange, and finally to a searing translucent white. This is the welding heat. It is a color so bright it hurts the eyes to look at directly for too long. Yet the smith must watch it constantly. He judges the temperature not with a dial or a gauge, but with the ancient, tired intuition of his own sight. The heat begins to radiate outward in waves. It carries the scent of the forge, a heavy, mineral smell. It is the smell of ancient forests compressed into charcoal, mixed with the metallic temps of iron dust and the salt of human sweat. It is a thick smell. It settles in your clothes. It finds its way into your hair. If you were to stay here for an hour, you would carry the scent of the 12th century with you for a week. The weight of the iron now. The smith reaches for a bar of raw iron. It is cold, heavy, and unresponsive. In its current state, it is useless, stubborn limb of the earth that refuses to bend. He uses a pair of long-handled tongs to grip the end. Even the tongs are heavy. They are forged of the very material they are meant to carry. He slides the iron bar into the center of the glowing coals. Now we wait. In the history for sleep, there is much waiting. The blacksmith's life is not one of constant motion, but of punctuated intensity. He stands there, his hand resting on the bellows handle, giving it a soft, occasional puff to keep the heart of the fire beating. He stares into the coals. What does he think about in these quiet, pre-dawn moments? Perhaps he thinks of the ache in his lower back, a dull throb that never quite leaves him. Perhaps he thinks of the callus on his palm, which has grown so thick he can no longer feel the texture of his wife's hand or the softness of a piece of bread. He is a man becoming metal. His skin is leathered by the heat, his ears are beginning to ring from years of percussion, and his eyes are perpetually bloodshot from the smoke. He waits for the bloom. He waits for the iron to forgive its hardness. After a few minutes, the end of the bar begins to change. It doesn't melt. Iron is too noble for that, but it softens. It begins to glow with that same cherry red. He pulls it out for a moment to inspect it. Not yet. It needs to be more than red. It needs to be the color of a setting sun, a vibrant, angry yellow-orange. He thrusts it back into the coals. Creak, huff, creak, huff. The smoke curls around the rafters, turning the old spiderwebs into thick, grey ropes of soot. The shop is silent, save for the fire and the bellows. No one is awake to ask him for a repair. No one is shouting for a new hoe or a mended hinge. It is just the man, the fire, and the iron. The iron is ready. The smith grips the tongs tightly. He braces his legs one forward. One backhand lifts the glowing bar from the fire. As it moves through the air, it sheds tiny flakes of fire. This is scale, the oxidized skin of the metal falling away. Like autumn leaves, he places the glowing tip onto the face of the anvil. The anvil is the silent partner. It is a massive, dark hunk of iron, cold and unyielding. When the hot iron touches the cold anvil, there is a soft, protesting hiss. He picks up his primary hammer. It is a 4-pound rounding hammer, its face polished smooth by a lifetime of impact. He doesn't swing with his arm alone. That would exhaust a man in an hour. No, he swings with his whole body. He drops his shoulder, lets the weight of the hammer fall, and uses the rebound of the anvil to lift the tool back up for the next strike. Dot. Clang. Dot. The sound is crystalline. It rings out through the empty streets of the village, a lone signal that the day has officially begun. It is a high-pitched singing note that vibrates in the teeth. Clang, clang, clang. Imagine the rhythm. It is slow, deliberate. Each strike must be purposeful. If he hits the iron too hard, he thins it too much. If he hits it too softly, the heat leaves the metal before the shape is formed as the hammer falls. The orange glow of the iron splashes against the smith's leather apron. You can see the metal move. Under the force of the blow, the iron behaves like stiff clay. It spreads, it widens. He turns the bar 90 degrees. Clang, he is squaring the round. He is forcing the chaos of the raw metal into the order of a tool, but the heat is fleeing. Iron is a fickle medium. As it loses its glow, it regains its stubbornness. The bright orange fades to a dull red, then a dark burgundy. The sound of the hammer changes. The musical clang turns into a dull, thudding clack. The iron is telling him that it will no longer be moved. He must stop. He has worked for perhaps 45 seconds. He turns back to the forge. He thrusts the iron back into the coals. He reaches for the bellows creak, huff, creak, huff. This is the cycle. Heat, strike, heat, strike. To make a single horseshoe, he might have to repeat this cycle 20 times. To make a simple wood axe 50 times. For a sword, thousands. The sun is finally beginning to bleed over the horizon, sending a single dusty beam of light through the open door of the smithy. It illuminates the millions of dust motes dancing in the air, fine particles of ash, charcoal, and iron. The smith breathes this in. Every day, for 14 hours a day, his lungs labor as much as his arms. By now, the apprentice has arrived. A young boy, perhaps 12 years old, with eyes wide and tired. He doesn't speak. He knows his place. He moves to the other side of the bellows to take over the rhythmic pulling, allowing the master smith to focus entirely on the iron. The presence of the boy doesn't make the work faster. It only makes it more relentless. Now that the bellows are moving constantly, the forge never cools. The smith moves from one project to another. A farmer arrives at the door. He doesn't say hello. He simply holds up a broken plowshare. It is caked in dried mud and snapped at the fluke. The smith looks at it. He doesn't sigh, though he feels the weight of the task. He takes the broken, muddy thing and sets it near the fire to dry. Then comes a woman with a kitchen pot that has lost its handle. Then a carter whose wheel rim has expanded in the heat and slipped its wooden frame. The smith is the healer of things, but unlike a doctor, he cannot heal with medicine or rest. He heals with violence. He heals by melting, smashing, and binding. Imagine the strain on his joints. Every time the hammer hits the anvil, a shockwave travels up the handle, through the palm, into the wrist, the elbow, and finally the shoulder. Over years, this micro-trauma builds. His joints grow thick and knobby. His grip becomes a permanent claw. He can likely lift a heavy stone with ease, but he might struggle to pick up a small needle or a coin from a flat table. The heat is now at its midday peak. The forge is a roaring mouth. The smith's tunic is soaked through with sweat, sticking to his back. The salt stings, the small burns on his arms. The blacksmith's kisses, they call them tiny scars, from flying sparks that he no longer even feels when they happen. As you stand here, fading into the rhythm, listen to how the village begins to rise around the forge. You hear the distant lowing of cattle being driven to pasture, the rhythmic shush-shush of a broom on a nearby doorstep, the muffled chatter of neighbors. But all of these sounds are secondary to the forge. The blacksmith's hammer is the metronome of medieval life. It tells the village what time it is. It tells them that the world is still functioning. As long as they hear that clang, 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 they know that tools are being made, that food will be harvested, and that the horses will be shod. It is a comforting sound to the village, but to the smith, it is the sound of his life ticking away. One blow at a time, he picks up a smaller hammer now. He is working on nails. This is perhaps the most sucking part of being a blacksmith. The world needs thousands of nails, for houses, for chests, for ships. The sun has climbed to its highest point now, hanging heavily over the thatched roofs of our medieval village. But inside the smithy, the sun's position hardly matters. The light of the world is pale compared to the light of the forge. We are entering the middle of the day, the time of the big work, where the heat is at its most unforgiving and the air is thickest with the ghosts of the fire. As we stand here in the corner, watching the smith, we begin to realize that this workshop is not just a place of creation. It is a place of constant, quiet confrontation. There are no safety goggles here. There are no thick, insulated gloves or ventilation fans humming in the background. There is only the leather apron, the iron tongs, and a man's own heightened senses. Imagine standing here, so close to the hearth that the hair on your arms begins to curl from the radiant heat. It is a slow, invisible pressure. In the modern world, we think of danger as something sudden, a flash, a crash, a scream. But for the medieval blacksmith, danger was a slow, atmospheric thing. It was something he breathed. It was something that settled on his skin like a second layer. Let us look at the air first. It is perhaps the most silent of the smith's enemies. You can almost see the smoke hanging in the rafters. It isn't a clean smoke. It is a heavy, grey curtain made of burnt charcoal, coal dust, and the microscopic flakes of iron that leap from the anvil with every strike. Because the forge is tucked away to keep the heat contained, the ventilation is often poor. A single high window or the open archway is all that allows the forge to breathe. The smith breathes this mixture for 12, 14, sometimes 16 hours a day. Over the years, this settles deep in the lungs. It is a slow accumulation. He develops a coffer-deep, resonant sound that he carries with him, even when he is at home by his own quiet hearth. In the village, they might say he has the smith's chest. To us, it is the price of the fire. Every breath is a trade-off. He gives a piece of his breath to the forge, and in return, the forge gives him the heat he needs to shape the world. Watch him now as he prepares to weld two pieces of iron together. This is a delicate, dangerous moment. He brings the heat of the charcoal up to a searing, brilliant white. The iron is almost at its melting point. It is shimmering. It looks liquid, like a piece of captured star matter held between his tongs. He moves it to the anvil. Clang. As the hammer strikes the white-hot metal, something happens. Tiny, brilliant sparks. Swat, the smith calls. Stars explode outward in a perfect circle. They are beautiful in a quiet, terrifying way. They arc through the dim air of the shop like miniature shooting stars. But these stars are not cold. They are fragments of molten iron and slag, traveling at great speed. The smith doesn't flinch. He cannot. If he moves his hand, the weld will fail. He simply accepts the sparks as they land. Some hit his heavy leather apron, bouncing off and dying on the dirt floor. But others find the exposed skin of his forearms, or the gap near his neck where his tunic is open to the heat. Imagine the sensation. A tiny, sharp prick of heat. A kiss from the forge. By the time a smith reaches middle age, his arms are a map of these kisses. Small, white, circular scars that never quite fade. His skin has become a patchwork of resilience. He has been burned so many times that the nerves have grown dull. He can pick up a piece of iron that would blister a normal hand, judging its heat by the way the air shimmers around it rather than by the pain it causes. But there are greater risks than the sparks. Think of the flying fragments. When he is drawing out a piece of iron, making it longer and thinner, the metal can sometimes splinter. A tiny shard of cold iron or a piece of brittle scale from the surface can fly up with the force of the hammer blow. Without glass to protect his eyes, the smith relies on a slight squint, a tilting of the head, and a lifetime of luck. You can almost hear the soft ping of a fragment hitting the stone wall behind him. It is a small sound, but it represents a narrow miss. As the hours grow long, the exhaustion becomes a danger of its own. The hammer is heavy. It weighs 4, maybe 5 pounds. After 10,000 strikes, the arm doesn't move with the same precision. The grip on the tongs loosens just a fraction. This is when the real accidents happen. A heavy bar of red-hot iron might slip, falling toward his feet. The smith's boots are made of thick leather, but they are not He must be fast, even in his tiredness. He must dance with a metal dot, and then there is the light. Imagine staring into that white-hot heart of the forge for hours on end. In the dimness of the shop, the contrast is absolute. The pupils of his eyes are constantly dilating and contracting, struggling to bridge the gap between the shadow of the corners and the brilliance of the fire. Over the decades, this takes a toll. Many old smiths find their vision clouding, a forge cataract brought on by the infrared radiation of the glowing coals. The world becomes a blur of orange and grey. He begins to work more by feel than by sight. He listens to the ring of the anvil. He feels the vibration of the hammer. He knows the iron is ready not because he sees the colour, but because he senses its softness through the tongs. It is a sensory world, but one where the senses are slowly being worn away by the very work they perform. The heat of the midday is now oppressive. The smith pauses for a moment. He doesn't sit there, there's no chair in a smithy. He leans against the cooling stone of the wall, away from the hearth. He takes a wooden ladle and dips it into a bucket of water. This water isn't for drinking. It is the quenching water. It is lukewarm, topped with a film of soot and iron scale. But he drinks it anyway. He has to. He is losing a gallon of fluid a day to the heat. He wipes his brow with a soot-stained sleeve, leaving a dark streak across his forehead. He looks at his hands. They are black. The charcoal dust has worked its way into the very pores of his skin, into the creases of his knuckles, under his fingernails. No amount of scrubbing with lye soap at the end of the day will ever truly make them clean again. He is marked by his trade. In the village, people look at his hands and they see someone they can depend on, but they also see someone who lives in a world they don't want to enter, a world of noise and grit. Let us listen to the noise again, clang, clang, clang to us. It is a relaxing, rhythmic sound, but to the smith, it is a wall of percussion. Every strike is a miniature explosion near his ears. In a time before earplugs, the blacksmith lived in a world of mounting silence. By his 50th year, the bird-song of the morning might be gone for him. The high-pitched voices of his grandchildren might be hard to catch. The only thing that remains clear is the deep, low thrum of the bellows and the solid thud of the hammer. He lives in a fortress of sound, but despite all of this, the burns, the smoke, the failing eyes, the dulling ears, there is a strange, quiet dignity in his movements. Watch him as he returns to the anvil. He picks up a heavy sledge. He is about to forge a large axe head. This requires the big heat. The bellows creak and whoosh. The fire roars, but it is a controlled roar. The smith isn't angry at the metal. He isn't fighting it. He is guiding it. He knows that the iron is not his enemy, even if it burns him. It is his partner. Without the iron, he is just a man in a dark room. With the iron, he is the creator of the town's foundation. He places the glowing mass on the anvil. Clang. The sound is deeper now. We can feel the vibration in the soles of our feet, coming up through the dirt floor. Imagine the physical toll on his skeleton. Every blow sends a shockwave through his wrist, up his radius and ulna, into the elbow joint, and finally into the shoulder and the spine. Over the years, the bones in his hitting arm grow thicker, denser, to compensate for the stress. His right shoulder might sit an inch lower than his left. He is literally being reshaped by the anvil, just as he reshapes the iron. He is a man of stone and metal. As we watch him work, The danger feels less like a threat and more like a condition of existence. Like the rain or the cold, it is simply there. He doesn't complain about the sparks. He doesn't curse the smoke. He simply moves through it with a slow, practiced grace. There is a safety in his expertise. He knows exactly where to stand. He knows exactly how to hold the tongs so the vibration doesn't shatter his grip. He knows the breath of his forge when to pump the bellows and when to let the coals rest. The danger is mitigated by the rhythm. If he breaks the rhythm, he is in trouble. But as long as the hammer falls in its steady, hypnotic beat, he is the master of this small, violent kingdom. Clang, clang, clang. The smoke continues to curl toward the ceiling, turning the afternoon light into long, visible shafts of grey. The smith's silhouette is dark against the orange glow. We feel a sense of heavy peace watching him. The work is hard, yes. It sucks in all the ways we can imagine: the physical pain, the long-term damage to the body, the constant risk. And yet, there is something profoundly grounding about it. There is no ambiguity here. There are no emails to answer. There are no complex social bureaucracies to navigate. There is only the iron. If it is hot, it will bend. If it is cold, it will not. If you hit it right, it becomes a tool. If you hit it wrong, it is wasted. It is a life of absolute clarity. We take a long, slow breath of the heavy air. We feel the warmth of the forge on our faces, a gentle reminder of the power held within those coals. The afternoon sun has begun its slow, lazy descent, casting long, honey-colored bars of light across the dirt floor of the smithy. But inside this small, stone-walled kingdom, the light that matters is still the deep, pulsing orange of the hearth. We have watched the smith struggle with the heat. We have seen the sparks dance and the smoke curl into the rafters. Now let us pause. Let us let the rhythm of the work slow down even further. Imagine leaning your back against the cool, rough stones of the interior wall, away from the direct bite of the fire. From here, we can truly look at the tools. These are not just objects. In the medieval world, these are the extensions of a man's soul. They are heavy, they are simple, and they are ancient. There is a profound, sleepy comfort in looking at things that have remained unchanged for 1,000 years. Let your gaze settle first on the center of the room. There, standing on a massive, weathered stump of ancient oak, is the anvil. Imagine reaching out and laying a hand on its side, not the top, which is still radiating a ghostly warmth, but the dark, forged side. It feels cold, dense, and unimaginably solid. This is the face of the smithy. It is a block of iron so thick that it swallows sound. The anvil is shaped like a strange, frozen beast. At one end, it tapers into a graceful, curving horn or bick. This is the rounded part, used for bending iron into hoops, rings, and the delicate curves of a horseshoe. You can see the marks of 1,000 curved shoes on its surface. At the other end, it is square and blunt. On the flat top, the face, the metal is polished to a dull, silver sheen. This is where the violence happens, yet the surface is calm. It is perfectly flat. If you look closely, you'll see 2 holes in the top. One is a small, round hole called the pritchel hole, used for punching holes through hot iron. The other is a larger, square hole known as the hardy hole. This is where the smith drops in other tools, small chisels or stakes, to turn the anvil into a multi-purpose machine. The anvil doesn't move. It cannot move. It is wedged into that oak stump with heavy iron staples. It is the one fixed point in a world of shifting fire. When the hammer hits it, the anvil hits back. It provides the resistance. Without the anvil's stubbornness, the iron could never be shaped. It is a lesson in stillness. Just watch the way the light glints off the flat face. It is steady. It is waiting. It is the heart of the craft, the reaching hands. The tongs now look to the wall. There, hanging from a long horizontal iron bar, is a row of tongs. In the medieval forge, a smith can never touch his work. The iron is his medium, but it is a forbidden one. The tongs are his hands. Imagine the variety. They are long, some nearly 3 feet in length, so that the smith's hands can remain far from the searing breath of the coals. There are flat-bit tongs, with jaws like a pair of square pliers, used for gripping flat bars or plates. There are bolts with a hollowed-out curve and the jaws to cradle a round rod without letting it slip. There are box tongs, which have a literal little iron box at the end to hold a piece of metal securely on all sides. Smith chooses them with a slow, practiced movement. He doesn't look. He knows the feel of the handles. When he grips them, he slides a small iron ring over the handles to lock them shut, so his hand doesn't have to maintain the crushing pressure for minutes at a time. Listen to the sound they make when they are put back. A dull, metallic clink. A heavy, tired sound. They are black with soot and stained with the grey dust of the forge. They are simple levers, a technology as old as the pyramids. And yet they are the only thing that allows a man to dance with a fire that would otherwise consume him. The voice of the forge, the hammers beside the anvil, resting on the oak stump or leaning against its base, are the hammers. If the anvil is the silent partner, the hammer is the voice. Each one has a different tone. There is the hand hammer, the master's primary tool. It has one flat face and one peen. The peen might be a rounded ball or a sharp horizontal wedge. The wooden handles are ash or hickory, sanded smooth by years of friction. They are dark where the hand grips them, polished by the oils of the skin. Imagine picking one up. It is surprisingly heavy. The weight is all in the head. The smith uses the hammer to move the metal. He doesn't just hit it, he pushes it. With the flat face, he flattens. With the peen, he spreads the metal out, like spreading butter with a knife, only with much more force. And then, in the corner, stands the sledge, the heavy hammer. This is for the apprentice. It is a two-handed beast, designed for the big work. When the sledge falls, the whole shop feels it. It is a deep, thudding bass note in the song of the forge. Thud, thud, thud. The hammers are never still for long. They are the instruments of change. But now, in this quiet moment of our story, they rest. They are cold. Their steel faces are quiet, reflecting the dying embers of the hearth. Look back toward the hearth. Behind the fire sits the great bellows. We have heard their breath, that slow creak whoosh, but look at the structure of them. They are huge, twin chambers of wood and supple oxhide. They are shaped like 2 giant teardrops, joined at the pointed end. Inside, there are simple leather valves flaps that open to let air in and snap shut to force it out. The air travels through a long tapered iron pipe called the tuya, pronounced tuya. This pipe passes through the thick stone wall of the hearth and ends right in the center of the charcoal. Without the bellows, the fire would be a lazy, orange thing, good for nothing but roasting a chicken. But with the bellows, the fire becomes a white-hot jet. The bellows are the lungs of the forge. They turn the oxygen of the room into the energy of the metal. Imagine the apprentice standing there, his hand on the wooden lever. It is a monotonous task. Down and up, down and up. The leather stretches and wrinkles, making a soft, shushing sound. The air inside the bellows is squeezed, forced through the narrow pipe, and hissed into the coals. Hiss, pulse, hiss, pulse. The rhythm is like a heartbeat. It is the most relaxing sound in the shop, a constant, low-frequency hum that anchors the room in time. The forge itself is not just a fireplace. It is a carefully engineered stone platform. It sits at waist height, so the smith doesn't have to bend his back to tend the fire. It is built of heavy fieldstone or brick, held together with thick mortar. The hearth is the hollowed-out center where the charcoal sits. Around the hearth is a flat stone table. This is where the smith keeps his clinkers, the impurities that he rakes out of the fire. It is also where he rests his iron rods, so they stay warm but not melting. Above the hearth hangs the hood. It is a massive, soot-blackened funnel made of timber and clay, or sometimes stone. It leans over the fire like a giant dark shadow, catching the smoke and guiding it up into the chimney. The chimney is the throat of the building. It is always coated in a thick, velvety layer of soot. In the winter, birds might nest in the top for the warmth. Their chirping filtered down through the stone like music from another world. The forge structure is the protector. It keeps the fire contained, preventing the wooden village from turning to ash. It is a fortress of stone in a world of wood. And finally, tucked beside the anvil, we find the slack tub or the water trough. It is usually a half barrel made of oak staves, bound with iron hoops. The water inside is not clear. It is a dark, murky tea of iron oxide ash and floating bits of charcoal. A thin film of oil often sits on the surface. This is the most dramatic tool of all. Yet it sits in perfect silence. When the iron is finished, when the horseshoe is shaped or the nail is pointed, it is still dangerously hot. The smith grips it with his tongs and plunges it into the water. Within unintel with and with unbeen woe is and but then at and I'm up there smelling of wet metal and old wood. The water bubbles and seethes around the iron. In seconds, the metal goes from a glowing orange to a dull, stony grey. The trough is also used for tempering. This is the secret science of the smith. He heats the steel just a little, watching for a specific color to creep across the surface. Pale straw, a deep blue, a peacock purple. When the color is exactly right, he quenches it again. This freezes the molecular structure of the metal, making it hard enough to hold an edge, but flexible enough not to shatter. The water trough is the end of the journey. It is where the fire's work is undone, and the iron is returned to the world of the cold and the solid. Imagine all these things. Together, the creak of the bellows, the ring of the anvil, the clink of the tongs, the thud of the hammer, the hiss of the water. These are the 5 voices of the medieval blacksmith's life. They are repetitive, They are predictable. They are the same today as they were yesterday, and they will be the same tomorrow as the smith begins to pack away his tools for the evening. He does so with a slow, heavy deliberation. He wipes the face of the anvil with a greasy rag to keep the night dampness from rusting it. He hangs the tongs in their specific order, flat bits, bolt tongs. He lays the hammers down, their heads pointing toward the fire. The shop is cooling now. The red glow in the hearth is fading to a soft, dusty pink. The smoke has mostly cleared, leaving only the lingering scent of charcoal and hard work. As we stand here, in the cool draft of the wide arched doorway, we begin to see that the blacksmith is never truly alone. His forge is the magnetic center of the village. It is the place where the raw materials of the earth are transformed into the necessities of life, and because of that, it is a place of constant, slow-moving human connection. Imagine standing here, leaning against the rough, sun-warmed timber of the doorframe. You can see the village lane stretching out before you. It is a quiet, winding path, bordered by gardens of kale and leeks, and low stone walls topped with moss. The commerce of a medieval village does not move with the frantic speed of a modern marketplace. There are no flashing signs, no ringing phones, no digital transactions. Everything here moves at the pace of a walking horse or a swinging hammer. It is a slow, rhythmic exchange of conversation that spans generations. Look down the lane. There, moving with a heavy, deliberate gait, is a farmer. His name might be Thomas, or John, or Piers. He is a man of the soil, his tunic stained with the grey clay of the river fields. Over his shoulder, he carries a heavy wooden ploughshare. Its iron tipped the coulter, bent and blunted by a hidden stone in the north meadow. He doesn't hurry. There is no point in hurrying when the sun is your only clock. He reaches the forge and pauses, letting the heavy wood slide from his shoulder to the ground with a soft, muffled thump in the dust. He doesn't interrupt the smith. He knows the etiquette of the fire. He stands in the shade of the doorway, wiping his brow with a calloused hand, and he waits. This waiting is a central part of medieval life. It is a quiet, meditative time. The farmer watches the smith work. He watches the sparks. He smells the familiar acridity of the charcoal. In this silence, there is a deep understanding. The farmer knows the weight of the hammer. The smith knows the resistance of the soil. They are two halves of the same survival. Finally, the smith reaches a stopping point. He sets his tongs aside and wipes his hands on his blackened leather apron. He steps toward the farmer, the north field. The smith might ask, his voice gravelly from the smoke. The north field, the farmer replies. A stone as big as a sheep's head. They both look down at the bent iron. There is no contract signed. There is no receipt given. There is only a nod. The smith picks up the heavy ploughshare as if it were a feather, his muscles rippling under the soot, and carries it toward the hearth. This is the slow rhythm of village commerce. It is based on proximity and trust. The farmer might not have coins to pay coinage, is rare in the smaller hamlets. Instead, he might promise a basket of winter apples, or a side of salted pork, or a day of labor during the smith's own harvest. It is a web of mutual debt, a gentle, invisible thread that holds the village together. But the forge also draws in the world. Beyond the village, imagine the sound of a heavier horse, not the shaggy-legged workhorse of the farm, but a tall, powerful destrier. The sound of its hooves is sharper, more metallic. A man-at-arms, perhaps a scout for the local lord, rides up to the forge. He is dressed in a quilted gambeson, dusty from the road, with a sword hanging heavy at his hip. He doesn't dismount with the ease of the farmer. He moves with the stiff, weary grace of someone who has spent days in the saddle. He brings a different kind of work. A broken buckle on a breastplate. A notch in a spearhead that needs to be ground away. A sword hilt that has grown loose and rattles with every step. The atmosphere in the shop changes slightly when the soldier enters. The air feels a bit more urgent, a bit colder. The soldier talks of the roads, of the movements of the king's men, of rumors of unrest in the neighboring county. The smith listens, but he doesn't stop his rhythm. He takes the notched spearhead, heats it until it glows like a dying star, and begins the slow, rhythmic tap-tap-tap of the repair dot to the smith. The sword is just another tool, like the hoe or the sickle. It is iron that must be mastered. He treats the soldier's blade with the same gruff, professional care he gives to the farmer's plough. In the heat of the forge, all social ranks melt away. A knight's armor and a peasant's pot both bow to the same fire. And then there are the horses. A village cannot move without its horses, and a horse cannot move without the smith. This is perhaps the most social part of the day. Imagine a young boy leading a sturdy mare toward the shop. The mare's name is Daisy, and she has cast a shoe on the stony path near the mill. The smith steps out into the light of the lane. He doesn't bring the horse into the dark, smoky shop. It's too cramped, too frightening for the animal. Instead, he brings the anvil or a smaller, portable one out to the doorway now. Listen to the interaction. The smith speaks softly to the horse. Steady, girl. Steady now. His voice is a low hum, a soothing vibration that matches the rhythm of his bellows. He lifts the mare's hind leg, tucking her heavy hoof between his knees. It is a position of great vulnerability and great strength. He uses a buffer and a hammer to knock out the old. Rusted nails clink, clink, clink. They fall into the dust like spent shells. He cleans the hoof with a paring knife. The curls of horn falling away like wood shavings. The smell is pungent, the scent of old stable floors, an ammonia, but it is a natural smell. A part of the cycle now comes the hot fitting. The smith has a horseshoe heating in the forge. He brings it out, glowing a dull, angry red. He presses the hot shoe against the bottom of the hoof. Tess S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S S R S L B N and man at Bill and then a man and it smells like burning hair. To a modern observer, it looks painful, but the horse's hoof is thick and unfeeling, like a giant fingernail. The heat chars the horn just enough to create a perfect, flat seat for the iron dot. In this moment, a small crowd might gather. A few children, their faces smudged with dirt, stop to watch the smoke. An old man, sitting on a bench across the lane, nods in approval. This is the village theatre. It is a slow, predictable drama that reinforces the order of things. The smith nails the shoe home with quick, precise blows. Tink, tink, tink. He twists off the ends of the nails and clenches them down. The horse is ready. The boy hands over a small loaf of bread or a copper farthing, and the mare is led away, her new shoes ringing out on the stones with a bright, crisp clip dash clop as the afternoon fades into the long shadows of twilight. The forge becomes a different kind of place. The big work is mostly done. The fires are being allowed to settle into a deep, glowing bed of embers. The smith is no longer swinging the heavy sledge. He is working on smaller things, hooks, nails, or perhaps a decorative latch for the church door. This is the hour of the talkers, the village elders. Men whose working days are mostly behind them drift toward the warmth of the forge. They sit on upturned logs or stone blocks near the entrance. They like the heat. It eases the ache in their old joints. They talk. They talk about the weather, whether the rain will hold for the haying. They talk about the price of wool in the market town 10 miles away. They talk about the priest's sermon, or the birth of a 3-legged calf in the next village. The blacksmith is the silent observer of all this. He is the keeper of the village's secrets. Because everyone comes to the forge, he knows who is struggling, who is prospering, and who is planning to move. He hears the whispers of the village while he hammers out its tools. Imagine the sound of their voices. They are low, rumbling tones, punctuated by the occasional crackle of the fire. There is no shouting. There is no haste. The conversation flows like a slow, muddy river. Clink goes the smith's hammer, providing a steady backbeat to their stories. One old man says, leaning on his staff. The winter was long, but the iron is strong. It is a simple philosophy, but in this room, surrounded by the tools of survival, it feels like the ultimate truth. The sun has finally dipped below the horizon. The sky is a deep, bruised purple, and the first few stars are blinking into existence over the thatched roofs. The villagers begin to drift, away to their own hearths. The farmer has gone home with his repaired plough. The soldier is miles away down the road. The old men have stood up, groaning slightly, and vanished into the shadows of the lane. The blacksmith is alone again with his fire. He looks at the empty doorway. The commerce of the day is finished. He has mended 6 tools, shod 2 horses, and forged 40 nails. He has heard 3 rumors, 2 complaints, and 1 long story about a haunted woods. He feels the weight of the village in his arms. He is the one who keeps their world together, one iron bond at a time. Imagine him taking a heavy wooden board and sliding it across the doorway, barfing out the night. The shop is now a sealed chamber of fading heat. The interactions are over. The talk is done, but as he banks the fire for the night, covering the glowing heart of the coals with a thick layer of grey ash, he knows that the rhythm will begin again tomorrow. The farmer will return. The horses will come. The tools will break, and he will be here to mend them. There is a profound comfort in this cycle. It is the slow, steady heartbeat of the medieval world. As we leave the forge and walk back down the quiet, dark lane, we can still feel the warmth of the shop on our backs. The village is settling into sleep. The fires in the small cottages are being dampened. The only sound is the rustle of the wind in the thatched eaves and the distant bark of a farm dog. Now imagine the smith reaching for a straight, square bar of iron. It is cold. It is a dull, stony grey. It is about 8 inches long, heavy for its size, with sharp, uncompromising corners. This is the raw material. It has no grace yet. It has no curve. He takes his long-handled tongs, the ones with the notched jaws designed to grip a square bar, and he clicks them shut. Click. A small iron ring slides down the handles, locking the iron in a death grip. He turns to the hearth. The apprentice is already at the bellows. Creak, whoosh, creak, whoosh. The smith buries the center of the iron bar deep into the heart of the glowing coals. He doesn't just lay it on top. He nestles it, tucking the charcoal around it like a warm blanket. We wait. This is the first lesson of the horseshoe. You cannot rush the fire. The iron begins to absorb the heat. At first, nothing happens. Then, the grey begins to fade. A faint, ghostly brown appears, then a deep, bruised purple. Slowly, a dark red begins to bleed into the metal from the center outward. You can almost feel the molecules of the iron beginning to relax. The stubbornness of the cold metal is melting away. The red grows brighter. It becomes a cherry red, then a vibrant, glowing orange. The smith watches. He isn't looking at the clock. He is looking at the bloom of the color. When the iron reaches a bright, shimmering yellow orangey, the color of a summer sun through a thick mist, he knows it is ready. He pulls it out. The air in the shop seems to flinch from the heat of the bar. It radiates a shimmering haze. Tiny flakes of black scale fall from the surface, drifting to the dirt floor like burnt paper. He moves to the anvil. He places the glowing bar across the horn of the anvil, the smooth, conical point we looked at earlier. He lifts his rounding hammer. His arm moves in a slow, arc-like motion. He isn't hitting it with anger. He is tapping. Clang. The first strike is at the very tip. The iron, now soft as stiff clay, bows slightly. Clang, clang with every blow. The smith slides the bar further along the curve of the horn. He is using the shape of the anvil to teach the iron how to bend. The straight line is vanishing. A gentle, graceful arc is taking its place. Imagine the sound. It's a musical note, echoing off the stone walls. Clang. The vibration travels through the tongs, into the smith's hand, telling him exactly how the metal is responding. He can feel if there's a cold spot. He can feel the give of the material, but the heat is fleeing. The vibrant orange is fading back to a dull, grumpy red. The iron is becoming stiff again. He doesn't fight it. He turns back to the fire. The second heat, squaring the branch of the bar, goes back into the coals. Creak, whoosh, we breathe with the bellows. We let our shoulders drop. There is no hurry. If it takes 3 heats or 10, the horseshoe will wait. When it emerges again, it is glowing fiercely. He brings it to the flat face of the anvil. Now, he must turn that square bar into a flat, wide branch. Clang, clang, clang. He strikes the top, flattening the iron, spreading it out. Then he quickly turns it on its side and strikes the edge to keep it the right width. Clang, tap. Clang, tap. There is a little bounce tap the smith does on the anvil between strikes. It's a rhythmic reset. It keeps the momentum of his arm going without wasting energy. It sounds like a heartbeat. Heartbeat, strike. Heartbeat, strike. The iron is wider now. It looks like a heavy ribbon. He moves it back to the horn to finish the U-shape. He brings the 2 ends, the heels, closer together. He checks it against a mental map of a horse's hoof. It's a rough shape now, a heavy glowing crescent. The third heat, the creasing and punching. This is the most delicate part. The shoe needs a groove for the nail heads to sit in, so they don't wear down too fast on the stones. This groove is called the fuller. He heats the shoe again. This time, he only heats one branch. He places a tool called a creaser on the glowing metal. He signals to the apprentice, who picks up a heavier sledgehammer. Thud, the sledge hits the creaser, driving it deep into the hot iron. Thud, thud, thud. A deep, clean line appears in the metal. The iron displacement causes the edge of the shoe to bulge slightly, which the smith immediately taps back into place with his hand hammer. Tap, 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 dot. Now the holes. He takes a small, pointed tool called a pritchel. He places it exactly in the groove he just made. Got, clink, one strike. The pritchel sinks halfway through. He moves to the next spot. He does 4 holes on one side, 4 on the other. He doesn't go all the way through yet. He turns the shoe over. On the back, he can see the witness marks, tiny, dark bumps where the iron is bulging out from the pressure. He places the shoe over the pritchel hole on the anvil face, that small round hole we saw earlier, clink dot. He strikes the pritchel again, and a tiny, glowing slug of iron pops out the bottom, falling through the anvil and into the dust. Clink, clink, clink. The shoe now has its eyes. It can see the road ahead. The shoe is almost finished, but it is covered in scale, that black, flaky skin, and it might have warped slightly from the punching. He heats it one last time. This is a gentle heat, a low cherry red. He brings it to the anvil and uses a soft wooden mallet or a very light hammer. He tours the shoe. Ting, ting, ting. He is flattening it perfectly. He is smoothing the edges so there are no sharp burrs that could hurt the horse's frog or sole. He is squaring the heels. He holds it up in the tongs, level with his eyes. The glowing crescent is perfectly symmetrical. It is a piece of geometry made from fire. The village outside is very quiet now. The shadows are long. The smith stands still, looking at his work. There is a moment of silent pride, quiet, tired satisfaction down now. The final act, he carries the glowing shoe to the water trough. Imagine the steam already rising in your mind. The water is dark and still. The iron is a dull, pulsating red. He plunges it in cessus. The sound is immense in the quiet shop. It is a long, tapering hiss that seems to draw all the tension out of the air. A great plume of white steam billows up, engulfing the smith's hand and arm, smelling of wet minerals and hot stone. Inside the water, the iron is screaming as its molecules are locked into place. The bubbles seethe and pop dot slowly. The hiss fades to a simmer. Then a gurgle. Then silence. The smith lifts the shoe out. It is no longer red. It is no longer glowing. It is a deep, matte charcoal grey, almost black. It is wet, and the water evaporates off its surface in seconds. Leaving it bone-dry, he taps it against the side of the anvil. Chink. The sound has changed. It isn't the dull thud of hot iron. It is a bright, clear, bell-like ring. The iron is alive now. It is hard. It is ready. The smith drops the finished shoe onto a pile of others in the corner. Clatter. It's a hollow, metallic sound. The shoe is cold enough to touch now, though it still holds a deep, internal warmth. He looks at his hands. They are shaking slightly from the exertion. He looks at the anvil, which is still radiating the ghost of the heat. The ritual is over. One shoe. He has 3 more to make for this horse, and then another 4 for the next. But for a moment, he just stands there. The apprentice has stopped the bellows. The fire is a low, flickering bed of orange jewels. The smoke is thin and blue, drifting lazily out the archway toward the rising moon. Imagine the peace of this moment. The clanging is gone. The hissing is gone. There is only the smell of the damp earth and the cooling iron. The horseshoe is a symbol of luck in our world, but here it is a symbol of a day's work. It is a solid, tangible thing. You could pick it up and feel its weight, the weight of the fire, the weight of the hammer, and the weight of 1,000 years of tradition. The smith wipes his brow. He moves slowly now, his joints stiffening as the heat of the forge leaves his body. He is ready to go home. We watch him as he banks the fire, covering the embers with ash to keep them alive until the morning. The shop grows darker. The anvil becomes a shadow. The water in the trough becomes a mirror. For the stars, everything is quiet. The shoe is made. The day is done. Relax into the deep, cooling silence of the forge. Let the rhythm of the hammer fade away until there is nothing left but the steady, easy rise and fall of your own breath. The iron is cold. The village is still. History often remembers the strength. It remembers the muscles and the power, but it forgets the cost. Being a medieval blacksmith wasn't just a career. It was a slow, deliberate consumption of the body by the forge. Imagine standing here, watching him as he finally puts down the tongs. He doesn't move quickly. He can't. Every motion is heavy, as if he is moving through water instead of air. This is the weight of a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades of the anvil. Let us look at him closely in this soft, fading light. First, look at his hands. They are resting on his knees as he sits for the first time in 14 hours on a low stone bench. These are not the hands of a young man anymore, even if he is only 30. They are a map of his life's work. The skin is no longer soft. It has become a kind of biological leather. The palms are thick with yellowed calluses, so dense that he could likely hold a coal for a second or two without feeling the bite. But there is a price for that toughness. His fingers are permanently curved. They have spent so many thousands of hours wrapped around the handles of hammers and tongs that they have forgotten how to lie flat. When he relaxes them, they stay in a semi-clutched position, a ghost of the grip they held all day. This is the beginning of the claw, a common ailment where the tendons thicken and tighten, pulling the world toward the palm and the kisses. Look at the white, circular scars on his knuckles and the backs of his hands. Each one is a memory of a spark that flew too far. Each one is a moment of pain that he had to ignore to finish a weld. His hands are a patchwork of survival now. Imagine the feeling in his back. He stands up to bank the fire, and you hear it a soft, dry click in his vertebrae. The blacksmith's life is lived in a slight, constant lean. He leans over the bellows. He leans over the anvil. He leans over the horse's hoof. Every time that 4-pound hammer struck the iron today, a shockwave traveled through his arm and lodged itself in his spine. Over years, this micro-trauma compressed the discs. His lower back is a knot of permanent tension. It is a dull, throbbing ache that never truly sleeps. It is there when he wakes, and it is there when he closes his eyes. He has grown shorter over the years, the heavy labor literally pressing him closer to the earth he works. One shoulder, his striking arm, is noticeably thicker and lower than the other. His body has lopsided itself to accommodate the hammer. He is an asymmetric monument to his craft. Listen to his breathing. It isn't quiet. There is a slight rattle in it, a wheeze that grows more pronounced in the damp evening air. We talked about the smoke, the beautiful, curling blue smoke of the charcoal, but that smoke is filled with the fine, invisible dust of the earth. For years, he has inhaled the carbon, the sulfur, and the microscopic flakes of iron scale. It coats the lining of his lungs like a layer of soot on a chimney wall. In the medical texts of the future, they might call it black lung or siderosis. But here, it is just the smith's cough. He clears his throat, a deep, rasping sound that echoes in the quiet shop. He knows that he cannot run as far as he once could. He knows that his breath is shorter than the farmers who spend their days in the open air of the fields. He lives in a world of filtered oxygen, and his chest feels heavy, as if a small anvil is resting permanently on his sternum. Look at his eyes as he stares into the dying embers. They are bloodshot, the whites traced with fine red lines from the constant irritation of the heat and the grit. But more than that, there is a slight cloudiness to them. The infrared radiation of the white-hot forge, the glare, is a slow thief. It steals the sharpness of the world. To him, the edges of the tools are beginning to blur. The faces of his children in the evening lamplight are becoming soft, glowing impressions rather than clear features, and his ears. The village is quiet now. But for the blacksmith, the silence is never absolute. There is a high-pitched ringing, a ghost clanging, that lives inside his head. It is the result of a million metal impacts. He has to lean in when his wife speaks to him. He has to watch people's lips. He lives in a muffled world, a fortress of fading sound. But the greatest toll isn't the lungs or the eyes. It is the exhaustion. It is a deep, bone-weary tiredness that goes beyond muscle fatigue. It is a neurological drain. To work with fire is to be in a state of constant high-level alertness. You cannot relax around a 2,000-degree hearth. You cannot be casual with a sledgehammer every second of the day. His brain has been calculating the color of the heat, the timing of the strike, the position of his feet, the safety of the apprentice. Now that the fire is banked, the adrenaline is draining away, leaving a vacuum behind. He feels hollow. His legs tremble slightly as he walks toward the back of the shop to wash his face in the quenching tub. He splashes the dark metallic water over his head. It doesn't make him feel refreshed. It just numbs the heat. He wipes the soot from his forehead, but it has stained his skin so deeply that he always looks as if he is standing in shadow. He reaches for his woolen cloak, hanging on a peg near the door. The wool is scratchy and heavy, but it is the only thing that can protect his overheated body from the sudden, sharp chill of the night. He steps out of the forge. The transition is jarring. The shop was orange and loud and thick. The night is blue and silent and thin. He feels small under the vast, cold stars. He walks down the lane toward his cottage. Each step is a conscious effort. He watches his feet, the heavy, leather-wrapped boots as they thud softly on the dirt. He passes the tavern, where the sounds of laughter and the clinking of ale mugs spill out into the street. A younger man might stop. A man whose body isn't screaming for rest might join the song. But the blacksmith keeps walking. He doesn't have the energy for the villagers' joy. He has given his energy to the iron. He has transformed his physical vitality into plowshares and hinges, into horseshoes and nails. He has traded his health for the stability of the town. He reaches his door. It is a low, humble entrance. Inside, his wife has kept a small pot of potajots, leeks, and perhaps a bit of salt pork simmering over a much smaller, much gentler fire. He sits at the wooden table. He doesn't speak much. He doesn't have the words. His hands, still stained with the grey dust of the day, hold the wooden spoon with that stiff, claw-like grip. He eats slowly. Every swallow is a relief. The warmth of the food meets the internal heat of his fatigue. He tastes a salt. He tastes the earth. He looks at the small fire in the cottage hearth. To anyone else, it is a source of comfort. To him, it is a reminder of the beast he spent all day taming. He respects the fire, but he is tired of looking at it. He finishes his meal and stands, his joints groaning in protest. He moves toward the sleeping loft, or the simple straw-filled mattress in the corner. The medieval blacksmith does not suffer from insomnia. As soon as his head touches the rough linen of the pillow, the world vanishes. He does not dream of the forge. He does not dream of the hammer. His mind goes as dark and still as the anvil in the middle of the night. It is a heavy sleep. It is the sleep of the stone. It is a sleep so deep that even the loudest thunder wouldn't wake him. His body, in its wisdom, begins the frantic, impossible task of repair. It tries to knit the micro tears in the muscle. It tries to soothe the inflammation in the joints. It tries to clear the soot from the throat, but it will only have 6 hours before the sun rises, before the birds begin their song. The internal clock will tick. The habit of a lifetime will pull him out of the abyss of rest. He will wake up, his back stiffer than it was the night before, his hands more reluctant to open. He will sit on the edge of the bed in the dark, listening to the silence, and he will prepare to do it all again. Imagine him there, for one last second, in the pre-dawn quiet. Why did he do it? Why did anyone choose this life that slowly dismantled the self? It was for the village. It was for the making. There is a profound, quiet satisfaction in knowing that the town moves because you move. There is a dignity in the destruction of the body for the sake of the craft. He is the foundation, and foundations must be made of something solid. He has turned himself into the iron he works. Relax now. The blacksmith is asleep. The village is silent. The forge is cold stone and grey ash. The pain is quiet for now. The ache is muffled by the blankets. The world is at peace. Feel the heaviness in your own limbs. Let your breath become as slow and deep as the blacksmith's dreamless rest. The day is gone. The work is finished. The fire is out. Imagine standing here, in the very corner of the workshop, where the floor is swept a little cleaner and the ceiling is a little lower. There, in the dim light of the pre-dawn, stands a boy. He is perhaps 12 years old, maybe 13. He is small for his age, his tunic a hand-me-down that is far too large, singed at the waist with a simple hemp rope. He is the apprentice in the medieval world. The forge was not just a place of work. It was a school of the senses. And for this boy, his education is not found in books or ink, but in the heat, the rhythm, and the silence of the master. Let us watch his daily routine unfold. It is a life of repetition, of discipline, and of a very slow, very quiet kind of growth. Before the master even enters the shop, the apprentice's day has begun, while the village is still held in that deep, velvety grey before the sunrise. The boy is already at the hearth. His first task is a humble one. He must clean the nest. Imagine him kneeling in the dirt, his small hands reaching into the cold, ashen heart of yesterday's fire. He must sift through the debris. He is looking for clinkers, the glassy, stony bits of slag and impurities that have melted out of the iron and the coal. If they stay in the fire, they will choke the oxygen. He picks them out, one by one, tossing them into a bucket with a soft chink. His hands are already black before the sun is up. He doesn't mind. To him, the soot is a badge of belonging. He prepares the new bed of charcoal, arranging the pieces with a precision that borders on the sacred. He knows that if the fire isn't built correctly, the master's work will suffer. And if the master's work suffers, the boy will hear of it. Now, the master arrives. There is no greeting, no good morning. There is only a nod. The master moves to the anvil, and the boy moves to his station, the bellows. Handle, this is the apprentice's primary world for the first 2 years of his training. He is the lung of the operation. He stands behind the great leather lungs, his small frame leaning into the heavy wooden lever. Creak, whoosh, creak, whoosh. Imagine the monotony. For 4, 5, 6 hours a day, he does nothing but pump. He doesn't get to hit the iron. He doesn't get to hold the tongs. He only gets to provide the breath. But as he pumps, he is learning. He is watching the master's every move from the shadows. He is learning the language of the sparks. He is learning the bloom of the color. He sees how the master's shoulders drop before a heavy strike. He hears the difference between the ring of a healthy weld and the dull thud of a failed one. His body is growing too. His right arm, the one on the lever, is beginning to develop a strength that belies his age. His back is learning the endurance of the forge. He is being conditioned, one whoosh at a time, to withstand the atmosphere of the shop. The master is not a cruel man, but he is a strict one. In the medieval guild system, the master is responsible for the boy's soul as well as his skills. There is no room for almost a horseshoe that is almost right is a horse that will go lame. A nail that is almost straight is a house that will creak. If the boy lets the fire get too cold, or if he pumps too fast and burns the iron, the master might not use words. He might simply point to the spoiled metal with a heavy finger. Look, the master might say, his voice as dry as the charcoal. You have wasted the earth. That weight stays with the boy. He learns that iron is a finite gift. He learns that his mistakes have consequences. It is a slow, heavy discipline that settles into his bones. Sometimes, in the heat of the midday, when the boy's arms are shaking with fatigue, the master will finally call him over. Hold the punch, the master commands. This is a moment of terror and triumph. The boy steps out from behind the bellows. He takes a long iron punch. He must hold it perfectly still on a piece of white-hot iron while the master swings the sledge. Imagine the heat on the boy's face. Imagine the vibration of the hammer travel through the tool and into his small wrists. If he flinches, the punch will slip. If he moves, he might lose a finger. He learns the stillness of the mountain. He learns to trust the master's aim. He learns that, in the forge, fear is a heat you must breathe through. The apprenticeship will last 7 years. Think about that. 7 years of cleaning ash, pumping bellows, and carrying water. 7 years before he is allowed to call himself a journeyman. In our modern world, we want to learn everything in a weekend. We want a video, a guide, a quick result. But the medieval apprentice understands that some knowledge cannot be taught. It can only be absorbed. He is absorbing the smell of the right temperature. He is absorbing the ring of the perfect anvil. He is absorbing the feel of the tongs as they bite into the metal. He spends his evenings sitting in the corner, watching the master mend a complex lock or a broken sword. He sees the master's eyes narrow as he judges a curve. The boy mimics the master's stance when he thinks no one is looking. He practices the swing with a piece of heavy wood in the backyard of the cottage. He is a shadow, becoming a man as the afternoon turns to twilight. The master might give the boy a scraps project. He points to a pile of small, irregular bits of iron, the ends of rods, the shards of broken shoes. Make a nail, the master says. The boy's heart thumps. This is his chance. He builds his own small fire in a corner of the hearth. He pumps the bellows for himself. He feels the heat. Clang, clang, clang. His rhythm is hurried. It lacks the slow, effortless grace of the master. He hits too hard, and the nail bends. He hits too soft, and it cools before it's pointed. He looks at his finished nail. It is ugly, it is crooked. The head is lopsided. He looks at the master. The master picks up the nail, turns it over in his huge, blackened palm, and then drops it into the scrap pile. Tomorrow, the master says, there is no praise. There is only the promise of another day. And to the apprentice, that is enough. He has touched the iron. He has moved the metal. When the work is finally done, the apprentice's day is not over, while the master goes home to his meal. The boy must quench the shop. He takes a bucket of water and splashes it on the dirt floor to keep the dust down. He wipes the tools. He oils the hinges of the bellows. He looks at the anvil in the dark. It is still warm, radiating a gentle heat into the quiet room. He reaches out and touches the face of it. One day, he thinks, his hammer will sing on this iron. One day, his name will be the one the villagers speak when their plows break. He feels a deep, quiet connection to the past. He isn't just learning a job. He is becoming a link in a chain that stretches back to the beginning of time. He walks home in the dark, his small shoulders aching, his hands permanently stained with the soot of his future. He is tired, so tired that he could fall asleep standing up. But beneath the exhaustion, there is a steady, glowing ember of purpose. He crawls into his bed of straw. In the loft of the smithy or in his master's house, he smells like charcoal. He smells like sweat. He smells like the future. As he closes his eyes, he doesn't dream of games or toys. He dreams of the color orange. He dreams of the creak whoosh of the bellows. He dreams of the day his hand will be steady enough to hold the light. His sleep is deep and undisturbed. The village outside is silent. The forge is a dark, cooling monument to the day's work. Relax into the quiet of the boy's room. Feel the softness of the straw and the stillness of the night. The learning is hard, the years are long, and the master is strict, but the path is clear. The apprentice is resting. The iron is waiting. The world is at peace. Listen to the silence of the forge. It is the silence of potential. Sleep now. The morning will bring the fire, and the boy will be there to meet it. Everything is in its place. The ash is swept. The tools are oiled. The student is dreaming. We have traveled a long way together today. We have felt the searing bite of the midday sun and the rhythmic violence of the hammer. We have seen the sparks dance like angry stars and the apprentice toil in the shadows. But now, the sun has finally dipped below the horizon, leaving only a thin, pale ribbon of gold on the edge of the world. The village is beginning to fold into itself. The cattle are stalled. The shutters are being latched. And here, in the heart of the smithy, the air is undergoing a profound transformation. The aggressive, biting heat of the afternoon is being replaced by a heavy, radiating warmth, the kind of warmth that settles into your clothes and invites you to simply stay still. Imagine standing here, right in the center of the shop, where the dirt floor is still warm beneath your boots. The master smith is performing his final ritual. This is the cooling of the world. There is no more clanging. There is no more shouting. There is only the soft, shushing sound of the broom and the crackle of a fire that is being told. It is time to sleep. The smith has one last item in his tongs. It is a small thing, perhaps a simple door latch for a cottage down the lane. It isn't glowing bright yellow anymore. It has faded to a dark, bruised plum color. He holds it for a moment, letting the ambient air of the shop take the first layer of heat. Then, he moves to the water trough. This is the final hiss of the day. Ts s s s s s s s s s s s s s s s s s s S S S S S S S S S S S S S is S S is S is S S S S is S is S S S S S S S S S S S S is the fun. It is gentler. The steam doesn't erupt in a violent cloud. It rises in a lazy, translucent spiral that catches the last of the light coming through the high window. The water in the trough gurgles softly, a private conversation between the liquid and the iron. He lifts the latch out. It is black. It is silent. He sets it on the wooden bench with a soft, solid thud. The work is over. Now comes the part of the day that is almost like a prayer. The smith begins to clean his tools. In the medieval world, tools are not disposable. They are companions. They are family. He takes a piece of oily sheepskin, dark with years of use, and he begins to wipe the face of the anvil. Listen to the sound of the cloth on the metal. It is a rhythmic swish, swish, swish. He is removing the fine, grey dust of the scale. He is removing the salt of his own sweat. As he wipes, the anvil begins to shine with a dull, soulful luster. It looks like a great dark diamond in the twilight. He moves to the tongs. He hangs them back on their rack, one by one. Clink the flat bits, clink the bolt-tongs, clink the small, delicate pliers he used for the nails. Each sound is a punctuation mark at the end of a long sentence. The rack is full now. The wall of the smithy is a silhouette of iron teeth, waiting for tomorrow. He picks up his primary hammer. He examines the face of it. It is slightly warm. He rubs a bit of beeswax into the wooden handle, preserving the grain, keeping the wood from becoming brittle in the dry heat of the shop. The scent of the wax sweet, floral, and ancient mixes with the smell of the charcoal. It is a comforting scent. It is the smell of a job finished. He turns back to the hearth. This is the most important task of the evening. A blacksmith never truly puts out his fire. To douse the coals completely would be a waste of resources and a loss of the forger's soul. Instead, he banks it. He takes a flat iron shovel and begins to move the glowing embers into a tight, compact mound in the center of the hearth. Scrape, shush, scrape, shush. The sound of the shovel on the stone is low and grounding. He gathers the fire together. Then he takes a heavy layer of grey, powdery ash from the edges of the hearth, and he begins to cover the glowing mound. Imagine the orange light disappearing. Piece by piece, the eye of the forge is being closed. He pats the ash down with the back of the shovel. Underneath that grey blanket, the coals will stay alive. They will smoulder in a deep, secret heat for the next 8 hours. The shop grows significantly darker. The shadows in the corners stretch out, reaching for the center of the room. The only light now comes from the pale moon beginning to climb over the thatched roofs outside. The smith steps to the doorway. He leans his heavy shoulder against the stone frame and looks out into the village. It is a world of blue and silver now. You can almost hear the silence. It isn't a modern silence. It is a deep, layered stillness. You can hear the rustle of the wind and the dry straw of the roofs. You can hear the distant, muffled thud of a door closing. You can hear the evening birds, the owls, and the nightjars beginning their watch. Thin ribbons of white smoke rise from the chimneys of the cottages. They look like ghostly fingers pointing toward the stars. In those houses, families are sitting down to their evening pottage. Children are being tucked into beds of wool and straw. The smith breathes in the cool night air. It is sharp. It is clean. It tastes like the coming frost. It feels wonderful against his skin, which has been baked all day by the furnace. He lets his eyes rest on the horizon. He doesn't think about the plowshares he has to fix tomorrow. He doesn't think about the taxes he owes the Lord. He simply exists in the cooling of the world. It is time to go. He reaches for the heavy wooden shutters that cover the main archway. They are thick oak, reinforced with iron straps that he forged himself 20 years ago. They are heavy. He has to lean his whole weight into them. Creak. The ancient hinges were loyal but tired, groan softly. He swings the first shutter closed. Thump, then the second. Thump, thump. He slides the massive iron bolt across the center. Clack, the shop is now a sealed world. It is a tomb of heat and memories. Inside, the banked fire is a hidden heart. The anvil is a silent sentry. The water in the trough is a dark, still mirror. He turns the key in the heavy iron lock. Click. The day is officially over. He begins the short walk to his cottage. Imagine the sound of his boots on the lane. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The earth is cooling, and the dew is beginning to settle on the grass. It creates a faint, shimmering mist that clings to the ground. He passes the church. The stone walls are cold and grey. The graveyard is a sea of shadow. He passes the well where a single bucket sits on the stone rim, dripping slowly. Plip, plop, plip. He feels his own body beginning to turn off. The adrenaline that has sustained him through the heavy lifting is gone. His muscles feel like lead. His mind feels like a fading ember. He reaches his own garden gate. The latch, the very first thing he ever made as an apprentice, lifts with a familiar, friendly tink. He enters his house. Inside, the room is lit only by the soft glow of a single tallow candle and the dying embers of the cooking fire. He doesn't need to speak. His wife is already asleep, her breathing steady and deep. He sits on the edge of the bed and pulls off his heavy leather boots. He drops them on the floor. Thump, thump. He removes his tunic. His skin is stained with the soot of the day, a permanent shadow that has become a part of him. He doesn't wash it off tonight. He is too tired. The soot is his blanket. He lies back. The mattress is straw, covered in a thick woolen sheet. To a king, it would be a penance. To the blacksmith, it is the finest silk in the world. He closes his eyes. Imagine the sensation of your own body sinking into the bed. Feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders. The anvil is gone. The hammer is still. The village is asleep. The medieval world is a hard place, but its rest is deep. There are no machines to hum. There are no lights to flicker. There is only the long, dark, cooling night. Inside the forge, the hidden coals pulse once, twice. Under their blanket of ash dot outside, the moon watches over the silent lane. The blacksmith is home. The fire is banked. The iron is cold, and you are safe. You are warm. You are tired in the most beautiful way. Let the image of the blue village at sunset linger in your mind. Let the sound of the evening birds lull you. Let the rhythm of the bellows the creek whoosh become the rhythm of your own heart. We have reached the end of our journey through the smoke and the fire. We have walked the muddy lanes, felt the searing heat of the hearth, and listened to the tireless song of the hammer. Now, as the last of the day's warmth radiates out of the stone walls and into the infinite night, it is time to reflect on the quiet legacy of the man who stood at the center of it all. The medieval blacksmith did not build cathedrals with his bare hands, nor did he write the laws that governed the land. He did not lead armies into the fray, and his name was rarely carved into the grand monuments of history. But as we sit here in the cooling silence of his workshop, we realize something profound. Without him, the cathedrals would have had no tools to shape their stones. Without him, the laws would have had no seals to press into wax. Without him, the armies would have been nothing but men in tunics, and the monuments would have remained trapped inside the unyielding rock. He was the silent foundation. He was the architect of the everyday. Imagine standing here, looking at the empty anvil. It looks like a simple block of iron, but it is actually the altar upon which modern civilization was forged. Every great leap of the Middle Ages, the expansion of the fields, the growth of the towns, the rising of the great stone walls began right here. It began with a man willing to stand in the heat for 16 hours a day. It began with a pair of lungs willing to breathe the soot so that the farmer could have a better plough. We often think of history as a series of dramatic events, but history is actually a series of quiet, repetitive labors. It is a billion hammer blows. It is a trillion sparks. It is the slow, agonizingly patient transformation of the raw, stubborn earth into the things that make life possible. The blacksmith was the translator. He took the language of the mountains, the raw ore, and translated it into the language of the village, the sickle, the latch, the hinge, the nail dot as you settle into your blankets. Think of that quiet, steady importance. There is a deep comfort in knowing that the world is held together by such honest toil. The blacksmith didn't seek fame. He sought the ring of the true weld. He didn't seek wealth. He sought the perfection of the curve. In a world that is often loud and frantic, his legacy is one of slow, enduring quality. His work was meant to last centuries, somewhere in an old stone barn or beneath the floorboards of a ruin. A hinge he made 800 years ago might still be holding. It is a silent witness to a life spent in the fire. The forge is very dark now. The banked fire is no longer visible, though if you were to walk close, you would still feel that ghostly, pulsing warmth against your skin. It is the heartbeat of the shop, sleeping under its blanket of grey ash. The smoke has entirely cleared. The air is crisp and smells only of cold stone and the faint, lingering sweetness of the beeswax used on the tool handles. Imagine the tools on the wall. They are shadows now. The tongs, the hammers, the punches, they are all resting. They have done their work. They have moved the metal, and now they are reclaiming their own cold. Solid nature, the water in the quenching trough, is as still as a dark mirror. If you looked into it, you would see the reflection of the moon through the high, unglazed window. There are no ripples. The steam of the afternoon is a distant memory. The village outside is a sea of silence. The tavern is dark. The church is a silent sentinel of stone. The river flows past the mill with a soft, shushing sound that serves as a lullaby for the valley. There is no one awake to hear the clink of iron. The world has returned to its natural state, the quiet, the dark, and the cool. We think of the blacksmith's life as sucking, and in many ways it did. The pain in his back was real. The smoke in his lungs was a heavy burden. The burns on his hands were a constant sting. But as he sleeps now, in his humble cottage, his rest is deeper than any king's. He is not plagued by the anxieties of the future. He is not haunted by the complexities of the world. He has worked with the most honest elements of existence: earth, air, fire, and water. He has conquered them with his own strength and his own patience. There is a profound peace in that kind of exhaustion. It is a clean tiredness. It is the feeling of having contributed something tangible to the world. Every nail he made today will hold a piece of wood. Every shoe he shaped will protect a living creature. He is part of the rhythm of the universe. Listen to the night. It is vast. It is ancient. It is the same night that the blacksmith looked out upon hundreds of years ago. The stars are the same. The wind in the eaves is the same. The silence is the same. We are connected to him through this silence. As you feel your own body growing heavy, as you let the tension leave your neck and your shoulders, imagine that you are laying down your own tools for the night. Whatever fire you have been tending, whatever iron you have been striking, the time for labor is over. The bellows have stopped. The anvil is still. The hearth is banked. The world can wait for the dawn. It does not need your strength right now. It only needs your peace. The blacksmith's legacy is not just in the iron. It is in the lesson of the fire. He taught us that beauty comes from heat. He taught us that strength comes from the strike. And most importantly, he taught us that even the hardest, most stubborn things can be shaped if you are patient enough, and if you are willing to stay with the work until it is finished. But now, even the work has its end. The village is a shadow. The moon is high. The stars are bright and cold. The story of the forge is closing, like a heavy oak door being bolted against the night. We have walked through the smoke, and now we are standing in the clean and clear air of the dream world. The medieval world is fading away. The orange glow is gone. The clanging is a memory. There is only the dark. There is only the quiet. There is only the rest. And as the forge finally cools and the village falls silent, you can imagine the tired blacksmith resting after another long day, his breathing slow and even, his heart at peace, and his spirit merging with the timeless rhythm of the ancient earth. Everything is finished. Everything is whole. Everything is still. Sleep now. Sleep, sleep.